Kneel before Zod!
You can't go! All the plants are gonna die!
I'm gonna take a bath.
Bad dates. I'll alert the media.
Boys, keep off the moors.
It's evil! Don't touch it!
The name's Pliskin.
No wire hanger!
Welcome to a very special Vintage Video Patreon pick, where our patrons at the $100 tier are invited to request any pre-1980s title they'd like for a custom review from the Vintage Video team, overanalyzing what you've seen and spoiling what you haven't. I'm Patrick O'Reilly.
I'm Jesse Bayless.
And I'm Richard Wells.
And today, Carlos Mota has asked us to review The Green Slime, released December 19th, 1968. Technically, he didn't ask us to review this movie.
In fact, he might ask us to stop.
He's probably furious right now. No, he asked for The Blob, and he gave us our choice of a second option, and we thought this was a nice pairing. Or I did.
Pretty sure I told you to
We both did that. It was written by Charles Sinclair, Bill Finger, and Tom Rowe, based on a story by Ivan Reiner, directed by Kinji Fukasaku, and released by Toei Company in Japan and MGM in the US. To approach this film properly, I'm going to start with a tangent about an uninvolved filmmaker altogether. Italian director Antonio Margheriti has a very eclectic filmography. He's basically the Italian Kinji Fukasaku, with celebrated entries in the spaghetti western, sci-fi, sword and sandal, Euro spy, and giallo genres. Also, like Fukasaku, Margheriti is a favorite of Quentin Tarantino's, and he even gets a shout-out in both Inglourious Basterds, where Eli Roth's Donnie Donowitz uses the director's name as a pseudonym,
Ein sehr talentierter Kameramann, Antonio Margheriti,
and in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, wherein DiCaprio's Rick Dalton stars in a fictional Margheriti spy film called Operazione Dynamite.
And his fourth, a spaghetti secret agent James Bond ripoff type flick called Operazione Dynamite.
Margheriti's work had caught the eye of Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer stateside, and they presented him with the opportunity to direct a quadrilogy of space films in a series, all revolving around the adventures of United Democracy's Space Command and their state-of-the-art space station, Gamma 1. Because of the budget and time frame provided, MGM presumed that these films would be for television broadcast, but when Margheriti returned 3 months later with 4 surprisingly decent-made feature films, they were rerouted for theatrical release where they turned a tidy profit. The films were shot back-to-back, utilizing the same cast, sets, and costumes, and all released in rapid succession, 3 in 1966 and the last in 67. I watched them all yesterday.
Did you?
And while they don't technically connect to The Green Slime beyond sharing some producers and writers, it is considered by many to be the unofficial 5th film in the series.
Huh.
Gamma 1 is replaced in The Green Slime with Gamma 3, and the UDSC is replaced with the UNSC. Tonight's film was actually an American-Japanese co-production, a second collaboration between MGM and Japanese studio Toei after 1966's Terror Beneath the Sea. The Green Slime was shot in Tokyo with an almost entirely American cast, largely padded out with members of the American military serving overseas. For reasons unbeknownst to me, the official Razzie Movie Guide saw fit to include this film in their list of the 100 most amusingly bad movies ever made. And starting in 1976, an annual science fiction convention called Bubonicon has awarded the Green Slime Award to the year's worst science fiction film. The film was also an inspiration for the 1979 board game The Awful Green Things from Outer Space.
I mean, I do put it in that category, though. It's not like it's this, it's not like it's this masterpiece of filmmaking.
For the time, it's not even poorly made.
But I'm just saying it's terribly entertaining because of...
It's absolutely entertaining.
Yeah.
I take issue with calling it a bad movie even in the first place. I think this is a decent sci-fi film for the time.
Yeah.
And actually, I think it's the best of the 5 films if you're considering it a part of the Margheriti set.
Sure. I think you just have problems with the Razzies in general. So
I do. That's true. But I also, I don't like it when people confuse, like, oh, this was made before I was born, so it's bad. Like, I don't understand the context of the year this movie came out.
Yeah.
So to me, it's a bad movie. And it's like, no, it's not a bad movie. It's an old movie. For the Margheriti films, the first one is called The Wild Wild Planet. Agents from the planet Delphos infiltrate the station and begin shrinking anyone who would stand in their way to lock them up in small briefcases while they create a race of superhumans to replace mankind. One victim's shrinking is interrupted, and because he survives the procedure, he is played by a little person for the rest of the film.
Oh, God.
The second film is called The War of the Planets. The story involves the crew of Gamma 1 being paralyzed and possessed by a green fog from space, and they attack it with flamethrower pistols. It also features an early role from Franco Django Nero, who we just saw in Enter the Ninja, and again in the new trailer as the titular Pope in The Pope's Exorcist. The third film is called War Between the Planets, which is not a different enough title from War of the Planets, War Between the Planets.
Betwixt the planets.
Right, that would be better. This is definitely one of the slower chapters. It's about another planet on a collision course with Earth, and the space team's trying to avoid disaster. Nothing really happens until the very end, and even then, it's super anticlimactic. Because the film doesn't communicate what's going on very well, a voice occasionally shows up on the audio track to just explain what's happening. And it's very odd. Like, it'll tell you the thoughts of the characters.
Wow. This is how you get through 4 movies in 3 minutes.
Exactly. No, it definitely came to a point where they were like, they showed this, and then they were like, I don't understand what was happening there. And so a voice comes on and says, so-and-so noticed that the people were coming over the ridge, and so he leapt out into space. It's like, I'm watching some of this. You didn't have to explain all of it.
It's like the parts they filmed for Raymond Burr and the original Godzilla.
Exactly, yeah.
Raymond, just tell us a little bit what's going on here.
People just want to hear you ramble. Thanks, Steve Martin. That's the character's name, right?
Yeah.
The fourth film is called Snow Devils, and I couldn't even follow this one, really. There's a lot of hiking through snow and this big hairy tribe of blue monsters, and then a bunch of dudes in spacesuits like swinging around on very visible wires in space. It's weird. It's not good. But then this film came out the next year. The film opens in space, and we see a glowing ball approaching Earth's atmosphere from a distance. The UNSC, which I assume stands for United Nations Space Command, but I don't think we ever spell out the UN part. They're communicating with the Gamma 3 space station as it floats by in the foreground. The crew in the station's command module radio Cape Kennedy, the former name of Cape Canaveral until 1973, and the team are recording weather from space and sending it down to report the weather to Earth. We cut to a whole miniature city, and we see Cape Kennedy and their launch pad. Though they're designed in the same style as the miniature cities from Margheriti's original films, they appear reconstructed from scratch because Fukasaku doesn't half-ass anything. Like, all the sets in this are beautiful.
Yeah, the miniatures are so great that they even have just traffic.
Right.
Like, there's like cars driving on the little miniature cars being dragged around, but it looks, this is pretty convincing. It's like a busy road.
And even the sign outside the building, the UNSC, which could have just been a sign, it's like little like blocks that are like lit up from within. It's just so much really great attention to detail. I just love miniature work anyway. In the command center on Earth, a technician is suddenly getting some disconcerting interference on his instruments. When they put the signal on their main screen, they can see it's an asteroid on approach.
Have you got that course figured yet?
Here it is, sir.
A collision course with Earth.
We crash zoom into the projection of the asteroid and kick off another jazzy theme song for the film's Alien Goo. No doubt inspired by Burt Bacharach's theme for The Blob.
Beware of the blob, it creeps and leaps and glides and slides across the floor, right through the door and all around.
The Green Slime theme song does not appear in the Japanese cut of the film and was added by composer Charles Fox, likely chosen for his work for the music in Barbarella, with lyrics from Sherry Gaydon and sung by Rick Lancelot, or Lancelotti, sometimes he's credited.
I think that this song makes the movie.
Absolutely. And
So
I would have
great.
a hard time picking a favorite between this Blob Killer theme song, the Blob Killer theme song, or the Godzilla vs. Hedorah Killer Blob theme song. Because,
like the muck and the pollution one.
yeah,
from
where
that
it's
one?
like just singing all the like chemical ingredients.
The sea has cobalt, it's full of mercury. Too many fumes in our oxygen. All the smog now is choking you and me. Good Lord, where is it gonna end? Got to get it back.
Under the theme song, we see a montage of the scientists checking and double-checking the trajectory of the asteroid. The lyrics are actually comical in places. Is it just something in your head? Will you believe it when you're dead? Green slime.
Is it just something in your head? Will you believe it when you're dead? Green slime! Green slime! Green slime!
The last title from the opening credits is for director Kinji Fukasaku over a shot of the spinning asteroid, and it's impossible not to compare the framing to the opening titles of Mystery Science Theater 3000. And it's no coincidence, because the film was actually the first film covered by the MST3K team. In fact, this was the pilot episode and never actually aired, but clips can be found on YouTube. MST3K creator Joel Hodgson based the original project for the show on that scene from The Omega Man where Charlton Heston is watching the Woodstock documentary on loop. But then, in his version, it was about the last man on Earth with a robotic sidekick he'd built himself, and they were somehow broadcasting their thoughts on these old movies. Before he pitched the show to KTMA production manager Jim Mallon, he decided that the apocalyptic setting was a bit bleak and mixed it with the film Silent Running, so that now the man was left alone on a spacecraft and forced to watch the films against his will with robot companions. The Green Slime MST3K episode was more of a proof of concept, and in place of Tom Servo features only a robot named Beeper, who speaks exclusively in beeps, which Crow translates.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, that's great. I also feel like you can see the influence of something like this movie in the title sequence, not just
for sure,
not just the spinning planet, but
the
crafts.
Fact that
everything is in miniatures. It's pretty great.
And it's even similar spaceship designs and stuff like that too. Back in the command center, the decision is made to obliterate the asteroid, nicknamed Flora. To lead the mission, the general in charge has called in Commander Rankin, who has technically tendered his resignation, but is still the best man for the job. Rankin is brought up to speed. The asteroid is made of 6 million tons of rock and set to collide with Earth in less than 10 hours.
Who's in command of the mission?
To my mind, there's only one man with the necessary experience, but under the circumstances, he would have to volunteer.
I take it I'm the volunteer?
Here are the operating orders, and there's a flight waiting at Lowry Field.
Lowry Field is referenced in sci-fi author Robert Heinlein's The Man Who Sold the Moon, probably as a reference to Lowry Air Force Base in Denver, Colorado, which is, of course, nowhere near Cape Kennedy/Cape Canaveral. Rankin accepts the mission. The general tells him if he doesn't succeed, then don't bother coming back to Earth because it won't be here.
Well,
the whole planet is going to be erased.
Yeah, I was like, well, I mean, it'll still be there, but it just
many more pieces.
It might even be in one piece. It'll just be less fun. Rankin is to report to Gamma 3 space station, where he'll be in charge of everyone there while they build his ship. The man currently running Gamma 3 is Vince Elliott, and it's clear from Rankin's reaction that the two have a history. The general and Rankin share their first of several awkward thumbs up over the course of the film. Rankin is flown directly to the launch pad for the first rocket up.
Wait, and I was like, wait, what is this?
Yeah.
He's like in like a hover car, and it's completely silent.
Yep.
Like no woo 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 sounds like to indicate that it's hovering.
Right over,
it just slides in there.
Yeah. The tower pulls away and the rocket launches, but the whole sequence plays out in miniature with a classic 50s Forbidden Planet or Thunderbird style imagery. It's fun to remember that this film and 2001: A Space Odyssey were in theaters at the same time. As the rocket approaches Gamma 3, Commander Elliott, played by Richard Jaeckel, is informed of its arrival. On the way to the docking bay, Elliott is intercepted by his girlfriend Lisa, who has already heard the rumors of Rankin's arrival. She seems annoyed that he was given command over Elliott. From their conversation, it seems like he is also an ex of hers. It's up to Rankin, who joins him on the mission to destroy Flora, and Lisa begs Elliott not to go with him.
That's up to him.
Vince, don't let anything start up again.
That's up to him, too.
Try to remember that once you were the best of friends.
Presumably that was before she came between them, or before they came between her.
What? Ew. What?
Just to make himself conscious, she tells Elliott that he has nothing to be jealous of and that Rankin means nothing to her anymore. He invites her to welcome Rankin aboard, and she says she'd rather not see him again. Rankin's rocket docks with the station, and he climbs out to see his new ship being assembled. Somehow, Elliott expects Rankin to be on his way within 20 minutes. Weirdly, a quote-unquote space consultant named Hans Halvorsen expects that he and his assistant will be included among Rankin's crew. What is a space consultant? They all work on a space station. Presumably, these are all experienced space consultants.
I mean, I just assume that he's an expert in...
Like a biologist, you would think. That they would just call him that, not be like, oh, he knows space. This guy's the space expert. And it's like, we're all in space all the time. He's like, shit floats. You're welcome. Bye. He walks away. Rankin tells Hans that he was not assigned to the mission, but Elliott informs him that the orders have changed while he was en route to the station. It's only been like 20 minutes.
Yeah, and also, he was in communication
the whole time.
So it's not like he was in a blackout or a cryo freezer or something like that.
Elliott volunteers himself for the mission as well, and Rankin is quick to accept. As Rankin and his crew board the ship, Lisa gives Elliott a nasty look for volunteering when she explicitly asked him not to. The new ship is released from the station with its full crew and heads off to the asteroid. The ship does a loop around the asteroid, making note of 3 dig sites where bombs will be placed around the surface.
It's very reminiscent of not reminiscent, I guess, but it was like this is the same plot of Armageddon.
Yep.
Like they're gonna have to drill down and place the bombs.
Armageddon is just Act 1 of this film. The craft is set down gently on the surface of the asteroid, and small mobile vehicles are rolled down a ramp from inside. 3 teams split up to deliver their nuclear arsenal at predetermined target sites. Back on Earth, the crew at Cape Kennedy are getting impatient. Drilling has begun at the first dig site with Rankin and the second dig site with Elliott. A third team begins digging directly under the ship.
Yeah, it's also strange that like one guy's drilling, but then another guy's standing guard with a gun.
Yeah.
It's like, why did you bring guns?
I guess they don't know what's here.
I mean, I guess, but
you wouldn't expect life on an asteroid.
Yeah, or aggressive life that would prevent you from drilling.
While they're doing the drilling, Hans and his assistant are investigating the surface. Hans discovers a sort of pulsating green scum layer over a puddle, and he collects a lump of it with metal tongs and then drops it in a jar to bring back to Gamma 3 for research.
Well, he collects one piece first and goes, "Oh,
and he sees a bigger piece."
That's a bigger piece. He just throws it.
Yeah. And then he collects the second blob, and then he notices a third blob beating like a heart on top of all their equipment. At all 3 dig sites, we can see green slime slowly enveloping their surface vehicles and explosive devices. Rankin's vehicle is so overloaded with slime that they can't get it started and turn to walk back to the ship. Elliott's vehicle suffers the same fate, and they too run back to the ship. Rankin gets an urgent call from Earth that somehow the asteroid is accelerating, and they now have 20 minutes to set off the charges, which is not enough time to escape the blast radius.
If it's accelerating, is it going to miss the Earth now? Or is it going to...
That's true, yeah. Does that make a difference?
It should change the path, yeah.
Unless it was like dead set on it, and now it's just going to hit it harder than it was before. Rankin wastes time arguing with him instead of just racing to get it all done. Outside, nobody seems in a hurry either. They can't find Dr. Halvorsen, so Rankin orders everyone back to the ship. Halvorsen comes running up with the slime sample in a jar.
Look, it's pulsating. It's alive. Get rid of it. But this is a major discovery.
And Rankin takes it and smashes it on the ground.
Can't bring it with you. Now everybody get on board.
I really love this moment because it's exactly what I wanted him to do. But unfortunately, in shattering the jar, he splashes a small drop of slime on the doctor's spacesuit, and we get an insert to emphasize its importance. The ship takes off quickly, but with only 3 minutes to go, they wasted 17 minutes finding Dr. Halvorsen.
Yeah.
It's like, you should have left a long time ago. Rankin orders the pilots to move faster and faster, but they warn that they're already pulling over 10 Gs, and any faster could destroy the ship. Unfortunately, so will this nuclear blast.
I think it's really funny in this moment because half of them, or most of them, I would say, are not acting like they're in 10 Gs, but one of the guys is
the doctor is
giving
committing
his all. Like, he's just forced against these seats.
And he's like even stretching his face a little bit to make it look like it's pulling him back in the chair.
What was that other movie where they were going to Venus?
Yeah,
and they were
just
all
trying to think of that.
They were all in like high G situations.
The Doomsday Machine.
Yes.
Like, where they're trying to climb on each other and like buckle seatbelts.
Oh, right, because the one guy, they were like, oh, the doctor says I'm totally fit for this mission, and then he just has a stroke on the launch pad. It's like, okay, well, doctor lied. Fire that guy. It doesn't matter. Earth exploded. The pilots are unwilling to commit to Rankin's demands, so he steps up and throws the lever himself. When he's tossed backward by more G-forces, he cuts his arm open on a support bar.
But, like, the guy sitting in the seat cannot reach this button that he's trying to reach.
But Rankin can.
Yeah.
And yet this guy stands up and is forcing himself forward to, like, reach this thing.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude.
Yeah.
Yeah, he wasn't trying, for sure.
So they were already at 10 Gs.
Yeah.
And then he throws it into full speed, and then he says, hit the force field button. And it's just like, you're going more than 10 Gs. So you're just walking uphill at, we'll casually say 15 times your weight. and you're just, yep, I can do this.
Yep.
No problem.
It's just a matter of will.
I'll push another button and not liquefy all of us.
His bones would like literally, your chest would just be crushing you.
It'd be like you got CPR from the Hulk. The asteroid explodes behind them, and the ship glows purple and then green as bits of the rock ricochet off the outside of their craft. After a moment, the crashing of asteroid debris stops, and it's clear they have survived. Earth and Gamma-3 celebrate. The crew of the ship are greeted on Gamma-3 with a hero's welcome. Lisa tries to rush in and hug Elliott, but Rankin orders her out of the room until they've gone through decontamination 3 times.
Yeah, like I was just...
What are you doing?
Yeah, it's like... I thought you were a doctor, and I was looking up her credit, and I was like, yeah, she's Dr. Benson. It's like, well, maybe she's a physicist? It's like, then we find out later, no, she's a medical doctor.
Turns out she's just a space consultant.
So, I think it's unusual that he asked for them to decontaminate it 3 times here.
I think he's just trying to be overzealous.
Why doesn't it work?
Because they don't have a proper decontamination system, really. Elliott tries to start a fight over it, even though they just saved the entire planet, and literally nothing could be more important. Passing through decontamination, we see the slime drop on someone's spacesuit bubbling. Commander Rankin heads to the onboard hospital, intending to dress his arm wound himself, but Lisa shows up to take care of it. She complains to him that he's too good at his job, and he doesn't let other people fail or do things wrong. She thinks his weakness as a commander is that he doesn't let people fuck off and screw up enough. Elliott shows up to lead Rankin away to the celebratory party. Everyone does bizarre future dancing. And this is like a common scene in all of the 5 films of the series where there's always like go-go dancing in these weird 60s costumes in this same like cafe bar area.
See, now here was my problem. I couldn't tell if they were trying to do fancy space dances or if this was just the 60s.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Lots of drugs.
Yeah, and in the... I don't know what kind of like space facility this is. If there are like a lot of civilians,
it seems like they're all working. Like they all have stations that they work here.
And so it's just like they just have like all this like civilian attire.
Yeah.
For being up there, like it's like wear your fancy dresses tonight.
Yeah. Why is it so comfortable on this space station? It seems expensive. Are the taxpayers funding this?
No, the United Nations.
The nations all pay taxes for it. That's how it goes. Rankin delivers congratulations from members of the Cape Kennedy crew, and Elliott tells Rankin that he can tell them that he and Lisa are engaged. It's like, oh, that's nice of them. Hey, tell them that I proposed to your ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
Congratulations, I'll tell him. Lisa, I wish you every happiness. Commander, may I dance with your fiancée?
Please do.
Elsewhere in the station, we see all the spacesuits from today's mission being put through decontamination. The energy from the decontamination unit causes the green slime to start bubbling again, so it is soon a full glowing blob of slime again, grown from a single green drop. So I guess whatever they were using as their technique for decontaminating is radiating energy into these suits that's supposed to burn it off, but these things absorb energy.
Got it.
Which I guess they just weren't familiar with that possibility, but it seems like they also could have just looked at them before they threw them in the microwave and been like, oh shit, this one has a big green blob on it. Let's leave that one in space.
Well, I mean, granted, this wasn't like an alien world. It was just an asteroid. But even like the Apollo 11 astronauts were put into like a 1-month quarantine.
Yeah, there's pictures of like
moon.
Neil Armstrong with his hand on the window. And
yeah. And while, again, this is just an asteroid, they did find alien life on there. Mm-hmm. And I was like, yeah, you need to go be put in a box for like 2 weeks just to be sure everything is okay, because that's an unknown.
And that's the only verifiable separation from the previous 4 films, because they make the point repeatedly that this is the first discovery of intelligent life. Or not intelligent. It's a puddle. But it's the first discovery of alien life forms, and in all the previous films, they encounter like alien life forms who speak and walk on 2 legs, so it's a little different. As they dance, Lisa asks Rankin why he had to report Elliott for some failure in the past. She says it cost him a lot. She also claims that Rankin would probably have made the same mistake Elliott did, which from what we've seen of the man is obviously not true.
Yeah, and the mistake was that he killed 10 people to save one guy.
Yeah. Severe trolley problem failure.
You would have done exactly the same.
I doubt it. And if I had, I wouldn't bitch about it all over the place. After all, he sacrificed 10 men to save one. That's a pretty stupid mistake.
It's like just so harsh, but I love it. Lisa informs Rankin that Elliott feels super bad about it. Like that makes up for all the lives he caused.
You're making a big mistake, Lisa. You don't love Vince, you pity him.
I'm very happy with him.
You're lying. You love me.
I love this guy. He's so fucking cool. And he's right, too. It's really interesting to have the character talk this way because in any other movie, he'd be the bad guy and you'd be rooting for Elliott. But in this case, Elliott's just a fuck up and Rankin is 100% right all the time. You don't usually give the massive ego to the hero of the story, but I like the way it feels. The technician decontaminating the spacesuits suddenly notices something is amiss. And when he opens the compartment to check on the suits, we see a flash of light, and he screams with the crackling sound that implies electrocution. Alarms sound all over the ship, and Elliott calls some of the crew to action. They pass a completely demolished computer station and find the decontamination technician dead on the ground, his face blackened and his clothes burned all over.
Okay, but prior to this, the guy comes running into like the dance area, and he's like, "Captain, or Commander, you have to come see this."
Mm-hmm.
Did you already find the dead guy and just leave him there without like trying to resuscitate
he didn't
him?
check on him at
and
all.
then also not make sure that you like bring the doctor first just in case he's not dead?
No, I just want to show the commander this dead body.
Standard procedure. The commander has a standing order. Any dead bodies, come get me
I gotta
first.
see him first. Don't tell that stupid doctor about it.
I got dibs.
They confirm the man is dead and then notice remnants of the green slime they found on the asteroid. Halvorsen claims not to know how it got here, and Rankin reminds him that it was his job to keep it off the space station. In the command module, they notice some of their monitors are malfunctioning, and Elliott sends crew to check the power lines. As a man explores the corridors with a flashlight, we see a sort of lobstery pincher drifting into view behind him. He finds a bunch of sparking wires, and when he shines his light on it, a glowing red eye appears behind him. It throws a tentacle around the man's neck, with a lobster claw at the end of it, and then the man screams in terror as he wrestles with it. The command module can hear the man screaming and find him in the tube all burned up again.
He's been electrocuted, just like Michael's.
Usually these movies try to keep the monster in shadow, but right away we see one of the aliens, which is apparently just fallen over on its side on the catwalk. Like it was trying to scramble away and it just tipped over.
It's like throwing a tantrum.
Yeah. It seems to be charging itself with the ship's engines, and Rankin prepares to shoot it with lasers, but Dr. Halvorsen and Commander Elliott interrupt, suggesting it would be wiser to capture the creature. Rankin reminds Elliott that the alien has already killed 2 men, and Elliott says yet another dumb thing in a row.
And as commander of this station, I say we ought to try. Now, I'll take full responsibility for it.
Oh, will you? Will you, Elliott? Commander Elliott orders the alien gassed and then shot with nets. The performers in these rubber alien costumes, by the way, are the only Japanese cast members in the film, incidentally played by children since adults couldn't maneuver in these costumes. The nets are predictably ineffective against the alien with powers of electrocution, and Commander Elliott has quickly gotten another 3 men killed and himself injured.
Yeah, one guy like falls off the edge of the balcony and just smashes his head.
It's a splat.
Yeah, there's just a huge puddle of blood around him instantly. Rankin fires on the alien with lasers to drive it away. He retakes command after yet another horrendous failure from Commander Elliott, and Dr. Halvorsen takes samples of the green blood from the floor. In the infirmary, Lisa tells him not to blame himself for the 3 deaths that are blatantly his fault that he preemptively took full responsibility for.
Yeah. This is totally your fault. 100% your fault.
She's such an enabler.
Yeah.
Are you blaming yourself again?
Yes, he is, and he should. Turns out he isn't blaming himself, and he is furious to learn that Rankin is going to stay around the station because Elliott is an even bigger fuck-up than he ever imagined.
You're saying I always screw up, right? Come on, admit it. You're saying what happened this morning, it's my fault, right?
All right, you want it straight?
Rankin admits that, yes, that's exactly what he's saying, and doesn't bother reminding Elliott when he said,
"No, I'll take full responsibility for it."
Lisa thinks it's important to remind Rankin that this is the first ever alien life discovered, and Elliott was right to protect it.
Tell that to the wives of the men in the morgue.
Elliott is called to a lab where Halvorsen shows him how quickly the green slime cells are able to self-replicate. He also charges the cells with electricity so they grow faster. Stop doing that.
The animal feeds on energy and discharges energy. That would explain its ability to electrocute Michaels. One cell, one microscopic speck left on a spacesuit, and it would absorb all the energy it could get.
Rankin orders the men to stop firing on the aliens with lasers to avoid causing new aliens to spawn.
I don't know where it happens, but I have the note here. At some point, they get a call, and it's on like a rotary ringing phone.
Yep.
Like an actual like old-timey telephone rings. And I was like, what the hell is that? We've had like radio communications and all this advanced like intercom stuff, and now all of a sudden we're picking up like an old phone.
Yeah, I wanted it to be like one of those horns on the wall.
Yeah, it's like, what is this?
Yeah, we just cut to Lily Tomlin connecting the call.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, what? I can't. I was laughing in hysterics, especially when you see like the curly cord come up with her head. I was like, oh my god, where are we?
Lisa moves to the symptom analyzer device and finds it lousy with green slime aliens. They try to roll all the patients out of the room, and a team of guards who haven't gotten the memo start laser blasting the aliens and spilling green blood all over the floor until the doctor and Rankin rush in to stop them.
Blood cells of these creatures is like seed. It can spawn new creatures from its own blood.
They lock the infirmary alien into the isolation wing of the infirmary. They watch it on a security monitor as it appears to heal its wounds with electric sparks. They follow globs of slime around the floor of the ship as it spreads and grows all over. Elliott orders the power shut off to the infirmary to slow the growth. Rankin orders a full quarantine on Gamma 3. Lights everywhere on the ship start to flutter as the aliens locate the power lines in the bowels of the station.
Also, everyone's really upset about the quarantine.
Yeah.
It's like, do we have to quarantine? Like,
it would have seemed unreasonable to have this scene a couple of years ago, but now it's like, yeah, that's what would happen. Elliott announces a plan to the crew that because the creatures seem localized in the C block, they can evacuate it and contain the creatures by luring them into a specific room with energy readings from a portable generator as bait. As predicted, the creatures come shuffling down the corridor toward the generator into the containment room. A few of the creatures somehow break formation and venture into the still crowded infirmary. Rankin shows up in the doorway with a flashlight to lure them away.
So, can we talk for a moment about the use of flashlights?
Mm-hmm. It's just like that's the only energy they could think of.
Well, I mean, it feels like they're not absorbing energy through light. They're absorbing the electricity through things that are conducting electricity.
Yeah.
Like it's not that. So it just seems weird. Like they're moths drawn to a flame.
Yeah.
Thinking, well, there's probably energy over there. I'll go that way.
Maybe their vision can see electricity somehow because that's what they feed on or something. But they decide that they're just going to use these giant strobe lights to lead the aliens everywhere. They maneuver all the aliens into the closet with the generator and then do another sweep of C block. When the aliens start breaking out of the room, Rankin makes plans to blast them out the airlock, but Halvorsen shows up demanding access to his files so they aren't accidentally jettisoned into space.
This guy again.
Yeah.
Like, seriously.
Him and Elliott are just driving me insane for the whole movie. Rankin assures him again there's no time, so he makes a run for it to collect his things against his commander's will. The aliens swarm the hall, and they have to close the doors before Halvorsen can escape. Elliott reminds us that he's a worthless moron who has learned nothing from the mistakes of his past by insisting they open the door and let the doctor out.
Yeah, and before that, Halvorsen fell on the ground and caused multiple vehicles to crash.
Right. On a nearby monitor, they see him scrambling around the room to evade the electrified tentacles of the creatures.
We're gonna have to raise the first airlock panel. You risk the whole station. That's a risk we're gonna have to take. Not as long as I'm in command.
What kind of sadistic trolley problem bullshit is this? We need to risk everyone's lives to save this one asshole who suicidally ignored protocol? How about we just check the monitor again? I'm sure he's dead by now.
Yeah.
Commander Elliott turns to open the panel, and Rankin draws a weapon and orders him away from the doors. Here is the only mistake Rankin makes in the film.
Yeah.
He lets Elliott call his bluff here instead of just shooting him dead like he should have 3 scenes ago. Even Lisa, the idiot's idiot girlfriend, stands by the decision and opts to open the door herself. She's standing in the way of the laser gun and flips the switch on the door herself because she's so confident that Elliott is making the right decision. As you probably guessed, the doctor has been dead for a while, and the aliens spill out into the hallway and kill more people. Instead of apologizing for ruining the day again, Elliott gets mad at Rankin for holding the aliens back with laser fire and giving the rest of the crew time to escape.
You're not supposed to shoot him, Jack. Get her out of here.
They manage to lock off the hallway again, but the alien attack on a set of lights ignites some nearby gas canisters, and a whole quarter of Gamma-3 explodes into the vacuum of space.
Oh, man, that was super intense.
Yeah, I thought the whole ship was going to go all of a sudden. I thought it was going to be like that Sea-Lab 2021 episode. It just keeps exploding over and over. On the somehow still functional security cameras in the exploded section, they see a few dead aliens, but most were blown into space by the explosion.
Which seems even worse.
Yeah, because now they're spreading all over the galaxy, you idiots. Rankin puts in a call to the chief of staff back on Earth. He orders the full evacuation of Gamma-3, and then, just as Elliott approaches, he orders the entire space station destroyed, which is a very reasonable suggestion considering the nature of their infestation. Rankin ordering the destruction of the station is kind of an echo of the last act of The War of the Planets, wherein Commander Mike Halstead asks the general, his own father, to bomb their position to kill the last of the aliens. Of course, in that film, he manages to survive anyway, and we get a nice little happy ending afterward in that film.
But I feel like they need to think a little bit harder about their choice of destroying this ship.
Yeah.
I would feel like, let's just set it on a collision course with the sun.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
And that's what I thought they were going to do.
Yeah, but that's not what they do. But Wrongy McAlways Wrong, Commander Elliott, is offended on behalf of the already totaled space station because he used to be in charge of it.
Now, you can evacuate this station, that's all right, but you're not going to destroy it.
It's our only way, Vince.
What do you mean it's our only way?
Exactly what I fucking said, Vince. Every time you contradict me, you kill 5 more people. Just shut the fuck up and be quietly wrong over there. Elliott tells Rankin he won't allow him to destroy the station, so Rankin has no choice but to order the man taken away to be evacuated and shipped back to Earth. In response to the reasoned and correct order, Elliott tries to punch Rankin in the face, but whiffs hard, so Rankin lays him out into the arms of the men in charge of escorting him away. When they start to open the escape hatch to launch evacuation shuttles, they notice there are aliens all along the outside of the ship, trying to get in through the same opening. Rankin orders a team of men to head up to destroy the aliens on the outside of the ship, and Elliott senses another chance to fuck everything up, so he sneaks onto the team. Discreetly. He's like, now I'm in charge of this team. Let's all go. Lisa finally realizes that perhaps Commander Vince Elliott is less than a genius and suggests he not disobey more of Rankin's unanimously correct orders. In response, he accuses her of cheating on him, which she has never hinted at doing for the entire film. In fact, she's done nothing but reject all of Rankin's offers the entire time.
She even helped you kill some guys.
Yeah. Wasn't that nice of her? It's our 5th anniversary, so we're going to kill 5 people together. Elliott and the team head outside to take on the army of aliens dotting the outside of the ship.
It's like, usually you give paper. I don't know what the 5th anniversary
5 years is paper. Here's a piece of paper that says we just killed 5 people. Rankin activates some solar panels to lure the aliens all into one place. Elliott and friends are able to distract the aliens long enough for one ship to evacuate. Elliott's laser gun jams, so he throws it directly into the eye of one of the aliens.
This is not the only time in the film we do this. It's so good.
Do you guys recall the last time we saw someone with the brain of a child throw a gun at a slimy space monster that wouldn't shoot anymore?
Was it the Blob?
It was the Blob. Elliott jetpacks away with another unconscious man from the team. Rankin finds more aliens in a small corridor and buries them with explosive barrels. Unfortunately, the space station's remote controls from Earth are not working, and Gamma-3 will need to be piloted from the station's command module, which is currently stuffed with aliens. Rankin volunteers to go back alone, while everyone else gets into the last escape shuttle.
And they're all like, that's smart. We'll only send one dude to do the thing that's absolutely critical to be done.
Yeah.
That's unlikely to succeed.
Right, exactly. Lisa begs him not to go, but he does it anyway. Naturally, when word gets to Commander Elliott that Rankin is making the sacrifice play, he decides to blunder into the situation and make things worse again. Amusingly, even though Lisa assumes Rankin has everything covered, she doesn't try to talk Vince out of it because she's a little tired of his contrarian streak at this point. She's like, you know what? Yeah, go ahead. Do that thing that they suggested you not do. Rankin's laser gun runs out, and again, we see someone hurl a gun like a javelin into an alien's face. Vince Elliott shows up and lays down some cover fire while Rankin pilots the space station on a trajectory into Earth? What are you doing? Pointed at the sun. But they're crashing it into Earth's atmosphere with all these slime creatures all over it.
Like, okay, here's the question. So you had an option of do nothing with this, and it'll probably either land in Earth's orbit or atmosphere anyways and crash down and do what happens. Or it just stays up in space where it's not hurting anybody and you could destroy it later.
Yeah, nuke it from wherever. But maybe nuking it is worse.
But instead, you're running it towards the Earth intentionally in order to disperse and rain this goo down upon everyone in multiple locations.
I was just realizing how the sun could backfire, though, too, if they're able to convert the energy from the sun. Like, the ship hits the sun, and then, like, 2 months later, they're like, oh, that's interesting. There's, like, this sunspot growing on the surface of the sun.
It's mildly green.
Yeah, it's unclear, like, if fire or... Because it just seems to absorb any kind of energy, and so, to me, burning up in the atmosphere would just be more and more energy.
Yeah.
Also, there's no way that this entire space station would burn up in the atmosphere.
Right,
like,
yeah.
Huge portions of it would make it through.
Yeah, exactly.
And if one drop of alien slime hits Earth, then we're dead. If I were Rankin right here, as soon as I saw Elliott show up, I'd be like, I order you not to shoot yourself in the face right now. Please don't do that right now. Or now. It was worth a shot. On their way out of the station, Elliott is finally killed. Rankin leaps out of the station carrying the wounded Elliott, or so it seems. But when they both reach the escape shuttle, it turns out he's dead after all. Like, I just wanted to make sure we didn't leave his body behind, I guess. The rest of the green slime creatures are seen burning up in the wreckage of Gamma 3 on re-entry. We hard cut from the space station exploding to Rankin recommending a posthumous honor for Commander Elliott, and then he gives the crew another awkward thumbs up.
Well, yeah, it's like Lisa says something to him, and then I thought for sure that thumbs up was shove it up your ass.
Yeah.
Because it's like all of a sudden she's like super proud of him. It's like, no.
Sorry, too late. The credits roll in slime green over a shot of Earth from space. The Japanese cut of the film is 13 minutes shorter and removes all aspects of the love triangle from the subplot, and apparently also all the scenes of Rankin and Elliott arguing. I don't know what's left. But that's the Green Slime, everybody. Lots of fun. A very fun film, and the sets are great. It's all this like really great 50s retro future stuff, and it's got just great colors and costume design. And all the technology looks awesome, except like you said, the phone does stand out.
Yeah.
But like the little ships that they have that they drive around on the asteroid to drill the holes are great.
When the rocket was pulling into the space station and it fires like its reverse engines.
Yeah.
And they're just the same engine, but just it has rockets.
Turn around, yeah.
Well, yeah, it has engines on both sides. It's like, oh, I think I've built this in Kerbal Space Program.
I love the design of those little escape pods because they look like a child's drawing of a rocket ship. And it just has like a window with the cross beams in it.
Yep.
You know, they're just like, this is just delightful.
Yeah. If you told Jack to draw a spaceship, that's what it would look like. It would have a little like attic window.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I know we made a lot of fun of this movie, but I mean, I was genuinely angry. Like at Vince Elliott, like I was like into this movie to the point where I was just so mad at Elliott.
See, I read so many reviews in the last week that go the other way, that are mad at Rankin.
What?
That they think he's too full of himself, and it's like, but he's always right. He should be full of himself. He's amazing. And he's got that wire brush hair. Like it looks like it's made out of like, it's just copper. It's just a curve of copper on his head,
like the frigging demon seed baby.
Yeah, exactly like that. But yeah, no, it's so fun. And it keeps moving the whole time. Like we don't waste any time. Like, we're on the surface of the asteroid already, and it's playing in real time practically too. It's like it's been 20 minutes and we're already on the asteroid.
Well, there's even a comment at the beginning when they got on the spaceship, they go up to Gamma 3,
right?
And they're like, why haven't they left yet?
Yeah,
they've only been there for 5 minutes, and they're walking out and getting on the spaceship already.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, why are they taking so long? It's like, are they? He just left here a second ago. I can still smell him. A lot of cologne. Rankin wears a lot of cologne.
Rankin. Rank.
Good stuff. Thumbs up.
Big thumbs up.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And I would honestly say, of the other set of the Margheriti quadrology, that the first two are probably worth checking out. They changed the lead actor after the first two, and the new guy's not as interesting, and then the fourth one felt like a complete waste of time. But the first two are actually pretty fun and have decent production value for something that came together in 3 months, which is insane that you would make 4 movies in 3 months. Our director here was Kinji Fukasaku. Fukasaku has a really eclectic filmography, usually high concept stuff with brilliant visuals. After this, he directs Star Wars homage Message from Space, post-apocalyptic Virus Day of Resurrection, which we covered with a minisode, and much later, Battle Royales 1 and 2, though he didn't do that much of 2 because his son took over after he passed away.
Very tonally different films.
Yes, absolutely.
Green Slime and Battle Royale.
Yeah. And when I saw Kill Bill, The Whole Bloody Affair, which combines the two halves into one film, it starts with a title card dedicating the film to Kinji Fukasaku. So it's definitely a favorite of Quentin Tarantino's. And I think Tarantino even produced the first DVD of Battle Royale that came to the U.S. because I think that the DVD that I bought has interviews with him in the special features.
Yeah, that was like a 8-year period. I feel like where famous directors were just promoting films to get released in the U.S. that wouldn't have been released otherwise.
Yeah, that was great. The story here came from Ivan Reiner, who has story and screenplay credits on many Space Age titles earlier in this series, like The Wild Wild Planet, The War of the Planets, War Between the Planets. And like I said, those 3 were all in 1966. The other writer was Charles Sinclair. He doesn't have that many credits, but he previously wrote a couple seasons of the 60s Batman. Speaking of Batman, Bill Finger is another credited writer here. He is the original co-creator with Bob Kane of DC's Batman character.
Oh.
He created Batman. And he had a much bigger hand in it than Bob Kane did, by all accounts. That he basically is like the Wozniak or the Tesla of that whole situation. That he didn't get credit for a really long time, and it took until, I guess, his granddaughter stepped forward and brought forth all this proof in the form of interviews that Bob Kane had done, admitting that, yeah, he came up with this and that and this and that and this. It's like, oh yeah, he developed the Joker and he developed the Robin and he developed the cape and the cowl, and it's like, but I thought of a mask like the Zorro mask, and it's like he's like
Zorro, the Chester A. Lampwick of Itchy and Scratchy.
Yeah, exactly. All I got is my rocket car, my gold house.
Those blintzes were terrible.
But Bill Finger's reputation was restored thanks to his granddaughter's efforts, and he consequently has Batman creator credits on almost every Batman product in recent years. Another writer credit for Tom Rowe, who also wrote the story adapted into The Aristocats, and later he wrote Tarzan the Ape Man for the Derricks. The music here came from Charles Fox. It says credit only, which is weird. Like, he asked not to be credited, and then they credited him. So on IMDb, it says that he got a credit, but he didn't write the music, but he definitely did write the music. So that's weird. But for some reason, the score was repurposed into a commercial for men's cologne Jade East that I feel like Commander Rankin was definitely wearing. He also scored
Wait. Not the Green Slime song.
The Green Slime score, not the theme song, but the regular score to the rest of the film. The Space Age musical, yeah.
Because the Green Slime song just doesn't really work for Cologne.
Right. But if it was, Jade East is the right one.
From out of the future comes something new for him. Jade East all-purpose lotion in the new Polaris gift package. A clear, soothing lotion that tones and conditions the skin on his face and body.
He also scored Last Married Couple in America, Little Darlings, Oh God, Book 2, and 9 to 5 for us last season. Apparently, he was very embarrassed by his work on this film and asked not to be credited, but he definitely was credited. It says composer right there up front. The composer for the Japanese version, which doesn't include the theme song, was Toshiaki Tsushima, who also scored The Street Fighter and The Return of the Street Fighter. The cinematographer here was Yoshikazu Yamazawa, who also lit Bullet Train. The editor was Osamu Tanaka, who previously cut A Haunted Turkish Bathhouse, which I've only seen screenshots from, but looks amazing. He also edited Bullet Train and Tokyo Deep Throat. I don't know what that one is. It's either All the President's Men or porn. All the Emperor's Men.
Can it not be both?
That'd be good. Follow the money into my G-string. Robert Horton played Commander Jack Rankin. He has lots of credits, but not much I'd seen before this, other than a handful of episodes of Alfred Hitchcock Presents. Luciana Paluzzi played Dr. Lisa Benson. She's Fiona in Thunderball. I think that's like a Spectre agent. I don't think that's a Bond girl. I mean, I guess they're all Bond girls.
Yeah.
Girls in Bond movies. Richard Jaeckel played Commander Vince Elliott. We saw him last as PFC Frank Flynn in Sands of Iwo Jima. He also plays Sonny Stein and Arthur Scott in Jaws ripoffs Mako, The Jaws of Death, and Grizzly. He's Chuck in Mr. No Legs from the people who brought you Flipper, the magic dolphin. I guess it's not magic. He also played Detective Dave Mooney in Bud Cardos and Tobe Hooper co-directed The Dark. Did you know Tobe Hooper co-directed a movie with Bud Cardos?
I did not.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
We've also seen him last season as Shepard in Herbie Goes Bananas, and he's back later this season as Bill Dudley in All the Marbles, which I think is actually the next one we're set to record. Later, he's George Fox in Starman, and finally Ben Edwards in 28 episodes of Baywatch. David Yorston played Lieutenant Curtis. He was petty officer in Superman. Robert Dunham played Captain Martin. He was a police chief in New Kirk City in Mothra. Jack Morris played Lieutenant Morris, rocket pilot. He doesn't have many acting credits I recognize, but he also wrote the sequel to Zapped in 1990. He wrote the sequel to Zapped, and he's in The Green Slime. Good for you, Jack Morris. Patricia Elliott played a nurse. She's Renee Buchanan in 84 episodes of One Life to Live. Cliff Harrington played a space station crew member, uncredited. He's a Relisican citizen in Mothra and a helicopter pilot in King Kong vs. Godzilla. Sable Jamil played medical office staff member. Before this, he showed up as a New Kirk City citizen in Mothra. Burr Middleton was the voice of Billy Batson / Shazam in the early 80s animated series. Robert Morris played a soldier. Not Zach Morris, Robert Morris.
Not Jack Morris
Not
either,
Jack
apparently.
Morris or Zach Morris. Maybe a brother, though. He played Watson in Quatermass and the Pit, and William Ross played Ferguson, uncredited. He's a dialogue editor on a lot of popular animated series like Mask, Dennis the Menace, Heathcliff, and The Real Ghostbusters. I think that's everything for The Green Slime. Thanks again to Carlos Mota for their generous contribution to the show. If there's any title you'd like us to review, our top Patreon tier includes a custom review of any pre-1980s title. If you have any thoughts you'd like to share, we are Vintage Video Pod on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Letterboxd, where, as I've said before, you can find each of our full movie rankings for the year. We can also be found at vintagevideopodcast.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you'll join us next time when we'll be discussing whatever you choose. We leave you now with a trailer for The Green Slime.
The lonely, helpless Earth. The 21st century. The world of the future. And lurking beyond the cold, strange immensity of conquered space, growing and spreading beyond the warped imagination of the greatest human intellect, exploding in unspeakable horror, the Green Slime. The civilized world at war with alien form, whose slimy touch means instant, horrible death. Invaders from beyond the stars. The Green Slime. Robert Horton. Luciana Paluzzi. Richard Jaeckel.
You make too many mistakes. You're not right for command.
This is my command, and I'll manage it.
Two men struggle for survival in the infected remains of a diseased universe.
Don't ask any questions.
One woman searches for a last chance to save the human race from the desperate hunger of the Green Slime. A battle in space against faceless beings. A cosmic nightmare that sends you into the incredible, berserk world of Green Slime.